I'm Bear Grylls. I've served with the British Special Forces, I've climbed to the summit of Everest and crossed the frozen oceans of the Arctic. Now I'm in Iceland, a land of huge glaciers and volcanoes.
Really throwing a hurry here!
Every year, 1,000 tourists need to be rescued. I'm going to show the skills needed to survive here. Flying out of Iceland's capital, Reykjavik, on the southwest coast where most of the 300,000 people live. The island lies just on the Arctic Circle, in between the US and Europe. It's about the size of Kentucky, but only has one main road that follows the coast all around the island. Most of the country is just a barren, frozen wasteland.
This place has a strange beauty about it. But it's also unforgiving down there.
Iceland's original settlers were the Vikings, who came from Norway over 1,000 years ago. They knew how to survive these harsh climates. People come here to experience the unique geology that's called the land of fire and ice.
Fire because one of the most volcanic countries in the world, and ice because over 2,000 square miles of it are glaciers.
On average, 3 people a day are rescued from the freezing glaciers and huge volcanic plains.
The glaciers directly under me, and those places are one of the toughest places to survive, and that's where I'm starting my journey.
All I've got is a knife, a water bottle and a flint. A camera crew will follow me. At 4,000 feet, I'm on a glacier on one of Iceland's highest and coldest points.
Man, this place is bleak.
I'm here in the middle of winter. Just now, it's 15 degrees Fahrenheit, but in a few hours, it can get down to a deadly -10.
Get some feeling back in my hands again.
My goal is to descend to the warmer areas around the coast. That's where I'll have the best chance of finding a road leading back towards Reykjavik in the southwest.
One of the simplest ways of finding out north and south when you're in the northern hemisphere is just to use your watch and the sun. And all I need to do is point the hour hand at the sun. So if it's 3 o'clock now, I point that at the sun, and then halfway between there and 12 o'clock is south. I'm heading southwest, so I want to keep heading this way.
As Iceland is in the middle of the North Atlantic, its weather can change so quickly, and storms can roll in literally in minutes. When I landed, it was sunny, but now I'm in the middle of a full-blown blizzard.
One of the biggest dangers up here on these glaciers in conditions like this is hypothermia, and can set in very quickly. Just a drop of a couple of degrees in your core body temperature will bring it on, and you start shivering, you start to slur your words, lose your ability to think straight, and I've had it before, and it's very frightening.
Without shelter, I'd only survive a matter of hours in blizzard conditions. But as quickly as it came, the storm lifts, and it gives me a brief chance to get my bearings.
What I have spotted down here is this ice cave, and that might well do for some protection. The problem is this cornice all the way up here, and how I'm going to get over this lip and down to there.
It's a 60-foot drop to the bottom, and the overhanging ledges can collapse easily.
Probably my best way of doing this is just to traverse along this snow bank and I need to be careful. As you can see down there, looks like a lip. Might well be a cliff dropping straight off that. You got to be really careful doing this without crampons and without an ice axe or rope. It just means you've got to be really certain of every foothold that you take. Okay, start edging across. Okay, I'm out of the nasty bit of this now, and it's just the last little shoot down into the cave. I love these bits. This is much bigger than I thought. Look at this. And actually, this isn't a cave, it's actually a funnel. Look, you can see it's open at the bottom. But these things are formed. What happens, meltwater comes down the glacier, and because the water's warmer than the ice, it creates these like tunnels running under the glacier. But when they get bigger, they grow into this sort of thing. You don't want to hang around in this. See a lot of that? Look, it's blue ice as well. And that's the oldest sort of ice, but it's also the most dangerous. It's most likely to crack.
Blue ice is as hard as steel, but it's also as brittle as glass. And because the glacier is constantly moving, collapses are common.
You can actually see, look, if you follow this up, you can actually see a bit of it where it's flaked off. And you imagine what that's going to do if that dropped on top of you.
Last year, a climber was in an ice cave just like this, and a 150-ton slab sheared off. He stood no chance of surviving.
I was hoping this was going to be a good place to shelter, but it's not. It's just going to act like a wind funnel. I need to think again and get out of here pretty fast now.
As it grows darker, a storm once again is moving in. I've got minutes before it's going to hit me.
Let's keep moving, so I've got to get off here soon.
Already temperatures are minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. There's no sign of shelter, and this storm is getting worse. I've got just 30 minutes before nightfall. I'm on a glacier in Iceland. A blizzard has come in, night is falling, and I need shelter fast. It's minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit, but winds of 50 miles an hour make it much colder.
But the wind's not only my enemy, it can also be my friend. And what happens when the wind blows over these sort of ridges, if you look up here, it builds up a load of snow on the leeward side of it, on the side out of the wind. And I can use that snow then to dig into and create like a little snow cave.
A couple of years ago, a snowmobiler got separated from his friends during a blizzard. He managed to stay alive for 48 hours before rescue came, because he got out of the wind by digging himself a snow hole.
This is definitely harder work without any form of shovel. But all of this snow is quite nice and loose. And the bits that are coming out, blocks like this, I'm going to keep so I can use those to then dam up the entrance at the end.
I'm keeping my pace steady. If I allow sweat to freeze on my body, hypothermia will come on twice as fast.
Well, I'm out of the wind now, at least, and that's taken me maybe 20 odd minutes just to dig out this little area of good loose powder snow. But the next thing I need to do is dig a little bit of a pit down. And the reason I do that is that cold air sinks. So I don't want this cold air around me. I want it to go down into what they call a cold well down here. What I want to do now is just block up a bit of this entrance here.
It's tempting to seal the entrance completely to keep the wind out, but that can be lethal.
Okay, what I've done here is just put some of the blocks over the top, and this will all consolidate down. Left a bit of a ventilation hole. I put my hand out here, and it's blowing hard, it's snowing, and this will give it a light covering, but I need to make sure, keep putting my hand through, keep that ventilation hole. Otherwise you can suffocate in these things.
Staying hydrated helps keep your body warm. It's tempting to eat the snow, but that would just cool my core body temperature down even more. So I'm going to melt some snow slowly, overnight, with my body heat.
It's about 3 a.m. But I'm just a bit concerned because my hands and my feet are starting to get really numb now. And it's just like becoming a real mental battle, you know, just to keep wiggling them and not just giving up. I just want this night to end now.
It's morning, and my main priority is to get off this glacier. I just can't risk being caught in another storm up here.
Well, it's definitely less windy than it was yesterday. It's still pretty windy, but actually I see the sun over there, which is a good sign. But in Iceland, the sun doesn't rise in the east and sets in the west. It's more like southeast and southwest. So that's southeast now, and the sun's just come up. It means southwest is over there. That's the way I want to go.
Glaciers are full of these ice gullies, and they can be dangerous.
All of this snow here, this is what's called rotten snow, which means it's fallen, it's thawed, and then it's refrozen, so you get this like crust, which is really good for walking on. I can just dig my feet in and get really good holds in it.
But the danger on glaciers are crevasses.
What you often get with crevasses is just a thin covering of compacted snow that's called a snow bridge, and you can see there just where one has collapsed. And this is why they're so dangerous. You don't know when you're on one, and you don't know what's under you as well. I mean, these could be, sometimes you're hundreds of feet deep, just narrow chasms underneath you, and therefore I've just got to be ultra careful and stick to the side of these gullies.
If you fall into a crevasse, they can be impossible to get out of. And with no chance of escape, a slow death is all that awaits you.
And this really is the very end of the glacier. You know, I've always thought of glaciers as like living beasts. You know, they move and they shift and they groan, and often they're angry. But I'm on my way.
I'm now at 3,000 foot, and the temperature is just above freezing. Finally, it looks like an easier southwest route, but almost immediately, there's a deep river blocking my way.
All of that water is glacial meltwater. It's going to be freezing, freezing cold. But I really need to try and keep heading this way. It's the way I'm heading southwest. I want to do anything I can to avoid being in that. So I just need to think of some way of trying to get across it.
But there may be a solution on the other side of the river.
I can see some steam coming from some vents on the hillside over there, and that means geothermic hot pools, warm water, and therefore jumping into this glacial water is a risk I can take.
But it's a big risk. Submerged in freezing water and with a cold wind, I only have less than 20 minutes to make it to those hot pools before I lose consciousness.
To be able to climb down this, and really I've got no choice apart from just jumping it. But it's easily deep enough. The water's crystal clear. I'm seeing all the way to the bottom, but it is high. This is probably about 30-foot jump, and I just know that water is glacial. It's going to be freezing, and as soon as I go into it, it's going to be a ticking time bomb between hypothermia and reaching those pools.
I'm in Iceland, heading southwest towards what I hope will be a town and rescue. But a deep glacial river is blocking my route. My only option is to jump.
Okay.
Freezing water can send my body into shock. I'm also rapidly losing heat, and that's making me weaker by the second. I've only got about 15 minutes to get my body temperature back to normal. My only hope is to reach the geothermal pools, but they're a mile away.
And that is just bitingly cold. God, my hands and all my legs just feel numb straight away. And I just know I just gotta keep every limb moving until I reach those pools. Oh, that's my head.
The air is literally refrigerating my body.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to run this. I'm getting really cold.
In extreme cold, my body acts to protect the brain and heart by draining blood away from my hands and feet. And that makes running even harder.
Oh, it's a hot pool. But look at this, you can actually see that, it's bubbling. That is at boiling temperature. And there's no way I'm getting into that.
I'm feeling my arms and legs beginning to shut down. I'm running out of time. I need to think quickly now.
You see this stream? It's just running out of that hot mud pool. And all I'm doing here is damming up this bit of the stream. And then hope to create a bit of a pool for me to get in. Yeah, that's kind of a manageable temperature.
I've got to get in fast, and if I don't get these wet clothes off, my body will go into shock.
In this wind, they should hopefully dry. It may be not so bad. But at least, during that time, I can lie in this hot pool and not freeze to death. God. Thank God for volcanoes. And it's amazing, look at the snow all around me. Literally 3 minutes ago, I wasn't far off from hypothermia. Now, it's kind of almost like being at home, apart from a bit muddier.
After warming up and my clothes nearly dry, it's time to move on. Iceland has many geothermal areas, and over 90% of homes are fueled by naturally heated water. This comes from underground rivers being heated by volcanic magma.
I needed to be a bit careful with where I'm treading here, because what you often get are these soft areas of mud, where actually the mud is at boiling point, really frothing away, and every year there'll be several tourists who'll get stuck in this stuff and get really, really badly burned. The way just to test the ground is just to step really gingerly and just push with your boot, see whether the mud is soft or not. And also just to tap it as well, because often it will feel like hollow. And what that means is you've got this crust over the top with the mud then boiling underneath it. And yeah, look, see even here, this is what I mean? Look, you've got a hole straight down. If I trod on that, this will probably give way. So I'll step over this bit. And this is a kind of pretty nasty area here. I've got a boiling pool on both sides.
Temperatures here are about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, so edible grasses, moss and lichen can grow. Since Viking times, sheep have roamed free grazing on these grasses. And that also gives me something to eat.
All of this here, look, see all of this? This is all reindeer moss, and this is really good for me to find. And I can tell it's reindeer moss. Look, it's kind of white. They look a little bit like little branches. Actually, they look quite like reindeer antlers as well. But you can actually eat this, and it's not going to give me much nutritional value, but what it will do is fill out my stomach and stop me feeling so hungry. And this is what the Vikings used to use it for.
Survival is all about making the most of opportunities, and it's not long before I get a break.
This is a real find. You know, he probably just came down this cliff, got stuck wedged in here, and has died. But most Icelandic sheep in the winter time, they're taken inside, but there are always a few that don't get rounded up. And this is obviously one of them. But he hasn't been dead that long. His eyeballs are still there, which means he's probably only, you know, maybe a few days since he's died. And the good thing about Iceland is because it's so cold here, meat will last much, much longer. And look, yeah, you see all of this is really, really nice meat. And now I've got this bit off, I can just begin to cut the meat away from all the skin. And now it's going to cut a nice strip of this fat as well.
Fat should be stored whenever possible. The oils can be used in many survival situations, like emergency food or fire.
Icelanders eat almost every part of a sheep, you know, everything from testicles, heart, liver, you know, even the eyeballs. Actually, I might take this out.
Sheep eyeballs are extremely nutritious. They are high in protein and rich in vitamin A and D. Usually, they are the first things to rot, but in this cold weather, these are still good.
And the eyeball, give them a dunk in the geothermal and cook the meat in there as well because it's boiling, and then all of this is going to be good enough to eat.
I could eat the meat raw, but it's harder to digest and can actually take energy away from the body. So cook meat whenever you can.
And you see here just where all the water's boiling, and all I need to do is take my shoelace off, and then if I just put a little loop in the end here, like that, and then if I just go straight through these bits of meat, I can then thread this through, and then just this last bit. And then what I'm going to do, loop it through itself, and that then is ready to go into the boiling water. And look, instantly you see it turning brown there. That's how hot this water is. And while the meat's cooking on one end of the shoelace, I can take the other end of it and just thread it through this eyeball. These are really okay to eat raw. I'm just going to dip it in here just to get any sort of bacteria off it. Give it a quick blast in the boiling water, and then this eyeball is going to be okay to eat. God, it's like chewing gristle full of cold gloop. Ugh. Ugh.
10 minutes of cooking time and my main course should be done.
Let's see if this is ready. Oh, that's like just, you know, the best lamb you get in a restaurant, cooked in volcanic boiling water.
With a full belly, it's time to get moving again. Already I can feel the wind changing, and the Icelanders have a saying: if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes and it will get a lot worse. I'm in the wilderness in Iceland. I'm heading southwest to Reykjavik, but now there's a huge freezing river to cross. Another storm with 50-mile-an-hour Arctic winds has whipped up and the temperature's plummeted to -15 degrees.
It's really blowing a hoolie here, but I've got to get across this river somehow. And this isn't the narrowest part, but it is the shallowest bit of the river. And I can use this to my advantage. And you can see the rocks in it creating like these eddies of slack water behind them. And I can use that to go from one to the next and then out. But this water is going to be freezing cold, especially the wind chill factor. So I've got to do everything I can to make sure my clothes, especially my top half, stays dry.
Soaking wet clothes in these conditions are lethal. So I'm keeping my clothes dry by wrapping them in my waterproof jacket. Facing upstream into the water. It's easier to keep my balance. I can't afford to slip here.
Across, and all of these clothes have actually stayed amazingly dry in that. And then what they used to say in the army, if we ever complain of being cold, then make us do burpees. And 10 of these, and you're warm again. Okay, I'm on my way.
After 15 minutes, the storm has disappeared as quickly as it arrived. I spotted a forest in the distance. In Iceland, the poor soil, wind and temperature means trees are few and far between. But when you do find them, they're great for both shelter and wildlife.
Hey, look at this. This is ptarmigan feathers here. See this? All of this. And ptarmigan's like a type of grouse, but this is what they have, this white winter plumage. And what it does, look, camouflages them well with the snow. And that's good news for me. If there are ptarmigans around, I might well be able to get one.
Ptarmigan are known as snow chickens in the US because of their winter plumage. And they feed on berries and seeds beneath the trees.
This is kind of what I'm looking for here. Look, a bit of a natural channel where ptarmigans might well pass. So all I need to do is use one of my shoelaces. Just tie this end in a really simple little overhand knot that gives me a little loop, and then tie this end round the tree, and then just set this one in that side and drape that over here. And the idea is, if a ptarmigan comes along, goes through this, they'll get snared in that and stuck to the tree.
I'll set several traps and hope that one will pay off by morning. My next priority is to find shelter and to build fire. I'm going to make a traditional shelter used by the Vikings.
What I'm doing here is just making a nice springy mattress.
Then I'll build up the walls with rocks in the shape of a coffin to trap the heat inside.
This bit of the wall I've built up higher, so I can then put some branches over the top of this. And these dead branches have like a natural bow to them there, which means I can just drape them over the top. And there's enough room under here for me to lie. And I just need to put some moss on the top of it here.
This should be waterproof. Now I'm on the lookout for fuel for a nice warm fire.
There are loads of these birch trees around here, and these are what I'm looking for, and I can tell they're birch just because of the way they're silver-limbed. This time of year in the winter, all the leaves have fallen off, but it's the leaves underneath them that I'm after. And these are going to make good tinder for my fire.
I'm going to need loads of wood to keep me warm all night.
That's building up like a wall. of rocks around it as well, just to protect it. And then keep building it up. For the first time since I dropped off that glacier, I can just feel really nice warmth in my hands. Oh, that's nice. Just about room for one pretty sleepy bear. Hope it doesn't rain. Anyway, I need rest.
So far, I've coped with everything Iceland has thrown at me. But its deadly lava tunnels might be the one thing that beats me.
This has just got an awful lot harder.
I've spent a cold night in my Viking shelter. Last night I set some traps, and I'm hoping I get lucky.
Well, the sun's up at least, and it was quite windy last night, you know. I spent a lot of the night trying to keep this fire going, so I was burning through fuel much faster than I thought. So I want to build this up and then go and check my traps.
Last night I laid traps for ptarmigan, a type of grouse found in Iceland.
No, nothing in this. But you know, it's no great surprise. You know, my past experience says, realistically, to get things as snares, I need to set, you know, a really good number of these. But so much of survival is just about, you know, keep trying and having the energy to make these sort of things, even when you're tired and you don't really feel like it, you know.
But in trap number 2, I get lucky.
Well, that is the first ptarmigan I've ever caught. And I've caught grouse before, but never ptarmigan. And this is really good news. Take it back to camp.
I don't need to pluck this. There's a faster way. I just cut the head and wings off and peel the skin of the breast back.
Push there, all the skin will come off. And then just get my hands in and pull all of its guts all the way down to the back. And peel all of this back. Oh, I can't wait to eat this.
The ptarmigan is a popular Christmas dish in Iceland. But I'm not waiting that long. This one's going to be ready in about 15 minutes.
Look at that, all that dark meat. Quite strong. Well, it's also going to be really good energy and calories. And I need both of those things at the moment.
I'm still heading on my southwest direction. Before long, I get to one of the many ancient lava fields that covers over 10% of Iceland. They are formed by volcanic eruptions when the molten rock cools and solidifies, and they can be treacherous to cross.
See here, all of this lava field's just covered in this moss, and it's just making crossing it really slow work. And also I need to be careful just because it's hard to tell what the moss is growing over, whether it's like a hollow or gap or solid rock. That'd be just too easy to twist an ankle in this stuff. Yeah, look at this, look, see all of these sort of holes. That's what I'm talking about.
The last volcanic eruption was in 2004, but some of these lava fields are ancient, more than 7,000 years old, and they hold a special place in Icelandic folklore.
The idea of elves and trolls is really embedded in Icelandic culture, and they say about 50% of Icelanders still today believe in elves and trolls, and they're meant to live in the rocks, and some are meant to be good and some are meant to be more mischievous. I hope it's the good ones looking after me out here. This lava field here is just full of these sort of caves, and actually what this is actually an old lava tunnel, And this is where originally flowing molten red hot lava would have been racing through this. And what happens when that's gone, it leaves behind these sort of tubes. But what I'm really struggling with now I'm off the glacier is finding fresh water. And you know, all of this lava field, the exact translation into Icelandic is literally no water. But my best chance is to get in there and see if I can find some seeps coming through the walls of fresh water. First of all, before I even think about getting in there, I've got to make some sort of torch. Yeah, it's pitch black.
I can make a torch out of some twigs and the fat I saved from the dead sheep.
Get down here, out of the wind.
Cave water is filtered through the rock, so it'll be a lot purer than the outlying snow, which can be full of bacteria.
Okay, now what I need is just a bit of the material from my t-shirt. I've got some of this sheep's fat. Wrap this round, like so. Take this bit of t-shirt and then tie that round it. Now if I just get a little fire going, that fat will burn really bright. Try and get this going. Okay, that's going. But I need to be really careful, because all of this is fragile. Ow, it's sharp. That's why I'm going to need my gloves in here.
Iceland has on average 33 earthquakes a day, and any one of those could collapse this tube. I've got to be quick.
What I'm looking for is just a good source of dripping water. This roof's just getting lower and lower now, which I don't like. Look, and that's why, look. You see that? All of this part of the ceiling here has just collapsed. Oh no, it's a bad time for the torch to come apart. God, this goes out, I'm in real trouble. There you go, look, you just see all of this stuff here is where it's collapsed. And this is why these places are so dangerous. I want to get water and get out of here as quick as I can.
I'm in a lava tube in Iceland, searching for water, but my torch is dying fast.
There's a little seep of water coming through the rock here, and this is good enough to drink. You know, that's as good as I'm going to get around here. Ah, that's nice.
I now have a full water bottle.
I just want to get out of this lava tube before this fire dies. Do the rest of this in the dark if this goes out. And that is not what I want. Look, it's gone.
I'm forced to do the last 200 yards in darkness. But at last, I've made it to the cave exit. I'm at the edge of the lava fields, but I'll still need all my energy to cross the vast plains that stretch in front of me. Just when I want to get some real distance, a 50-mile-an-hour wind closes in.
And this wind just suddenly ripped out from nothing in about half an hour. And it's just like making progress. Almost impossible. This is probably gusting. This is probably gusting like 50, 60 miles an hour. And what it does is just whip up the sand and blast it into your face, all the pebbles. And look, I try and lean into this wind. That's how strong it is. Get down here. This is actually a kettle hole
in this black sand desert. This gives me a chance to get out of the wind. Look, you notice, just like 2 foot under the surface. And already, I can like hear myself think again. And the wind's still screaming over my head here. This is a brilliant find. Give me a chance just to maybe sit here, wait a while and see if this wind is going to ease up.
I take the chance just to sit it out and rest. But storms like these have been known to last for weeks, so I'm forced to keep going. I'm on what Icelanders call the sand dune. It stretches for over 100 miles down to the coast and can be treacherous.
All of this area here, it's just now a vast black sand plain, and it's that dangerous combination of loose sand and water, and it's been known in the past literally to swallow up men and horses, and there is something eerie about this place. But the way to cross this is just to aim always for the higher ground. You know, watch out for the shallower depressions that are going to be boggier, and if you do find yourself in those, you've got to back away and go round to the higher ground.
Otherwise, I could find myself waist deep in quicksand. In the past, Icelandic sailors were unaware of the deadly hazards of the Black Sands, and many perished whilst coming ashore.
I don't know if you can see on the horizon over the Black Sands there, you can see some pylons, and it's kind of hard to see in the sun, but those are definitely electricity pylons, and I'm hoping the other side of that might well be the road.
There's no doubting it, it's a coastal highway. And from here, I'll be able to catch a lift back to Reykjavik.
And that's the end of my journey. And really, you know, winter in Iceland, this land of fire and ice, has just shown me Mother Nature at her most raw. And it's been extreme high winds and extreme low temperatures. And really, it's pushed me to my limits.